another great speaker and presenter and a friend to the Nonprofit Productivity Summit. And that's Michael Sliwinski. He's the CEO and founder of Noseby, which is a product that I've used for many years, which my nonprofit team uses. We use Noseby Teams. We love it. And so Michael's certainly going to be talking about the products that his company makes, but he's also going to help us understand as nonprofit leaders how we can communicate better, how we can stop interrupting each other so much, and how organizations that are complex and often distributed can actually get a ton of work done, even though they might not be interrupting one another or seeing one another all the time. So Michael, welcome to the summit. And what would you add to that introduction?
Thanks. Yeah, so not much. I mean, I'm grateful and thankful for having you as a friend for such a long time, for so many years. And we actually, before COVID, we managed to meet in person, which was awesome. So especially now after all that, you really appreciate these moments where you can meet somebody in person. So it was great. Yeah, so I've been in the productivity space for many years, like more than 15 years now, running Noseby. And yeah, I love that. I what I like about my work is that I make a tool that makes other people awesome. So it's keeps them more organized and helps them achieve their goals, compared to many different things that people do to achieve, somebody else's goals. So I really like that. And this is why, after so many years, I'm still doing it and I'm still motivated and I'm still excited about it, because the work is never ending, and people's hopes and dreams are just bigger and better. And now, especially in these trying times, now when we have to kind of rethink how we work, and in many cases, finally look that there are other ways to work. So it's really important to not only, in my case, not only give a tool, but also show people how it's done and show people how others do it as well. And so this, and as you know, I've been always promoting my tool with a context. So with the context of how we work, with with examples from our company and from other companies, and whenever I interview customers, the first thing they say is that that they maybe read this what I wrote, and they started implementing this part, like for example our Mighty Fridays or the pyramid of communication, like all that stuff that we worked on. And so it's not just about the tool, but it's also about the habits, the way we work, and the interaction that we can have.
And I think one of the values of a summit like this is that nonprofits can learn from for-profit companies. So you mentioned this idea of Mighty Fridays, which for your company, I think, right, every Friday, staff members have some more flexibility to do some creative head down work. And I'll give you a chance to correct that if I need to. In our nonprofit, we do once a month what we call a Mighty Friday. So we stole your idea, massaged it a little bit, and we just say, look, that one time a month, it's the first Friday of the month for different reasons. And we say, pick one aspect of the business, or in our case, the organization, and look at the analytics. Just any part of the organization that's curious to you. It might be checkout sales through the website. It might be conversions from an event to joining. It might be, whatever. I mean, or even we've looked at like times that we send our Friday emails, and do they correspond with better open rates, whatever. So we've taken some things that we've learned from you and kind of translated them for our little organization, and it's made a difference. And it's starting to help us build that muscle where we know, okay, Mighty Friday means this, and we do that, and it's different. But when we come back the week after and we share what we learned, it's really fun because people had the autonomy to pick something. But help us understand, for you guys, Mighty Friday is every Friday, yes?
Yes. So every Friday, we have a Mighty Friday, which basically means you have to do your weekly review. And and I know you spoke to David Allen. So, and he's always been, saying that weekly review is one of the most important habits of productivity. And so we do a weekly review, and so everybody cleans their, Noseby teams basically. So their projects, tasks, and checks out, what they can be, what can be cleaned, what can be prepared, and also plans ahead the next week. Because the idea is that on Monday, everybody should get to work with a plan and not just, starting and thinking what they should be doing. So that's the first part of Mighty Friday. And then they should focus on personal development. So they should really do whatever they please to just develop themselves. So if somebody's into programming, they can do a programming, project or something. If somebody like wants to catch up on an online conference like this one, they can just, sit down after a weekly review and just watch all the sessions. No problem. And I'll I'll make sure to make these sessions available to my team. So it's all about like catching up with, learning, because in the daily whirlwind, when we have so much stuff on our plate, we don't have, we want to have time to learn, but we don't. And what we've learned from deliberate practice is when you really learn something deliberately, and for that you need time. And you cannot just read a short article and then you know it. You should dive deeper. And that's why Friday, the Mighty Friday, is the space for people to dive deeper, to learn something new. And we've learned like many things that we are applying now in our company have been learned by somebody on a Mighty Friday. So it's really awesome. And sometimes people do learn something that is not related much to business at all, or even at all, but it doesn't matter. It's for them. Like they decide. They have the authority, the agency to decide, what they're going to do. Nobody else in the company should tell them what they should do on a Friday, apart from the weekly review.
That's really cool. So you give your team members who are distributed all across Europe, you give them that kind of green light or permission to do that. And have you found that they feel, a sort of lightness or a freedom, and they often tell you things they learned afterwards? Or is it more just, this is cool, it's just part of our work culture?
Yeah, it's more of a thing that I should remind them that they have this Mighty Friday, because people want to work and then people want to catch up with things. So they think that apart from doing the weekly review, they feel like they have to catch up on some other things just to make sure that that they have a good weekend, which is okay, I understand. But the Friday is not for that. They should really just do everything, plan everything. If they haven't finish something, put it on for reschedule the task for a Monday, and then just do what you want to do. So it's actually my job as the leader of the company to remind them every now and then, or just give them an example of somebody who did something. So I'm constantly asking, like, what did you do? Like, what did you achieve on a Friday? And sometimes people, tell me, and when they tell me, I tell everyone else, with their permission, of course, to give people an example of what can be done. Because when we introduced this, other businesses thought that people are going to just take a Friday off. I've been also following a lot the work of Gregory McKeown, the author of Essentialism, and I was thinking, and there's also the other book, The One Thing, and they always said, like, what's the one thing, right? And then for me, this one thing on Friday is the weekly review. Like, you have to do the weekly review. This is the essential thing that you have to do, and then everything else is a bonus. That's why it took me a while to teach them the concept of weekly review, but the most importantly, like, to find space for that, because again, I think, I don't know what David told you, but I think this is this is what he finds with people who are trying to practice getting things done, is the fact that you want to do a weekly review, you want it, but the thing is that when you have to schedule a 2-hour meeting with yourself, you think it's a waste of time. When I have to schedule a 2-hour meeting with you, Mike, I'm gonna do it on a whim, no problem. So that's the difference, because a meeting with you will never be a waste of time, but meeting with myself, like, why? Right? But it's important, and that's why,
I'm continually surprised by the things that I take for granted, and I think in a lot of nonprofits we just think, of course Joe knows how to use Gmail, or of course this person knows how to use Nosby Teams or whatever their, project management software, because we gave them these YouTube videos, or of course they know how to clean up their projects or something. And I don't think I believe that anymore. I think we have an obligation as leaders to teach those basic productivity skills. And I know one that you guys are so good at is what you call the pyramid of communication. And I wonder if you could maybe walk us through a couple of the pieces of that and the underlying philosophy of this pyramid of communication, which we've taught it to our team, you've taught it to our team, and it really works. So I really want folks to get a better feel for that.
Well, basically, we have uncovered that the way you work is, I mean, the most important thing that you do is your work, right? I mean, this is what you were hired to do. And that's the most important thing. And the problem is that in the modern workspace, you don't have much time for that, you know, because you have meetings, you have to reply to people, like it's just all over the place. So for us, like the pyramid of communication, it means like we should really like recognize where the work is being done. So the important thing is deep work, like is the work that you're doing, the article you're writing, the article you're preparing, all that stuff. This is the most important. And this is what you do alone, solo. This is what you do. This is what you were hired to do. But then second step of this pyramid is feedback, but it's asynchronous feedback. So basically, I wrote something, Mike, I want to know what you think about it. But I don't want you to tell me now. I want you to just really read it, take your time when you can, and give me feedback. Just, yeah, Mike, great feedback, right? So that's the second part. And this is the asynchronous communication, taking your time to really give good feedback, because this is the second thing you are hired to do. You were hired to produce good work, but you were also hired to give feedback to people because you're smart. So that's the second part. And then the third part is the instantaneous, chatting. This is the where we chat on Slack or where we just exchange messages. This is the third part of communication. And then we have the voice. So one-on-one, like we are doing right now, and then the fifth part of the pyramid is the meetings. And we call it pyramid because in many companies it's the other way around. It's like, not much work, lots of chatter, and then there are lots of meetings. And it should be just the other way around. The meetings should be last. The meetings are the last resort. And the meetings should be only when they're really necessary, because everything else should be in these comments, in these chat messages, like before we really do the meeting. And that's why we believe so much in first giving people space to work, which in our case is a little bit easier than in like a traditional office environment, because everybody works from home. So they have this space, but then also create space for good comments, for this very good, we call it asynchronous feedback. So when you really, take your time to reply to what I did, and that's another thing. And then not to promote too much chatter, and then really try not to schedule so many meetings.
It's really magic when it works, and when you get all the team members who buy into it. The breaking that default of let's get in a room and have a meeting is hard. And I wonder, with your customers of Noseby, and in particular Noseby teams, have you had pushback on that? Have you had people say, we're a big meeting culture organization, Michael, you don't understand. We can't do that asynchronous thing because we're in an open office or we're in a shared workspace. So what would your advice be in that situation?
What you just said, usually the boss says that, but not people who are participating in these meetings, because people get just tired. Even people who are like me, I'm an extrovert. I like meetings. I like meeting people, I'm having a blast with you right now. So it's like, it's fantastic, but I still need time to really do my work, to feel productive, to feel useful. And people don't feel that if they have like meeting after the meeting. And this was one of the main issues of the pandemic when it hit. People thought that they could just, schedule any meeting, because on Zoom or any other platform is just so easy. You just go and call, and then you have a video chat. Of course, then you have technical glitches, but then, life is life. But anyway, people would just do it like this, like meeting after meeting after meeting, because it was just so easy. But really, even if you believe that, meetings are an essential part of your company culture, it's still useful to just look at your schedule, just look at your calendar and just see that there is no gaps. Like, how do you want to have a good meeting if you're not prepared for it? I hate being unprepared for a meeting. But to be prepared for a meeting, I need to spend time on that. I need to just, study the documents, read the documentation, read the proposals, read all that stuff. There is this famous thing that Jeff Bezos did, is that when he starts a meeting, everybody is reading nobody says anything, and they read the documentation, And only when everybody has read the documentation, they start the meeting. I think it's a good first step, but actually I prefer to read the documentation way ahead of the meeting, because I have then the time to really digest the information I got, to really, analyze what I read, and then come to the meeting with even better ideas. Because when you do that, when you try to quickly give feedback, quickly respond to something, you always, you fall back on the easiest answer instead of trying to dig in and see the good answer, So that's why for us, for example, it's critical. Like when we have a meeting, we have a agenda for each meeting. So that we have points and tasks, and then in these tasks we have comments, and then it's like it's really well done, well prepared. And if somebody hasn't read it or hasn't done it, then we're like, okay, then we skip it. We'll do it next week. No harm done. Just we cannot deal with this because you haven't read it, and it doesn't make sense to discuss it if we haven't read it. And it's kind of embarrassing first. I was caught, and I'm the boss, and I was caught not being prepared for one of the agenda points. But I just took the bullet. I was like, okay, next week then, and then and this is again how you teach people to do it. You as a leader biting the bullet and saying, I'm not prepared, guilty as charged, but rules are rules. Next week it is, right? So this way, you see that it's for real. It's not like the rules don't apply to me. I can be on all the meetings. No, I also need my space between meetings, even though I'm like in my company, most of the team has just one meeting a week, and in my case, I have 2 or 3, maybe 4 sometimes. It depends with the team, and so it's really not that many. But even me, I prefer to have, 1 meeting a day or 2 meetings on Monday, and then, 1 meeting on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, no on Thursday, for example. Like usually this is my dynamic. So this way I have also space for my creative work and for my deep work.
Yeah, that deep work is so important. And I think it's about honoring people's time and giving them space to think, like you say, to be prepared. And, I think the days are gone of just sort of like spinning BS in a meeting and trying to look smart. Like you said, I was at a meeting the other day, staff meeting, and there was our agenda and there was the item, and I hadn't done it. And I just said, I blew it, and I said, but I will do something by the end of the day today, so help me God. Or this idea of like, let's get people in a room and something magical will happen, that on the spot, they'll think of something great. No, they won't. It'll be something crummy. And so it's really important to help people with this. How about on the step of the pyramid of messaging? Like I use Slack, we use NSBE Teams when we can to communicate. Sometimes we'll text, that's not great, but what's your counsel there? Because a lot of people are like drowning in Slack. They hear that little ping and like a dog, they go and check it. Where does it fit in, and how can we make sure it doesn't take over the day?
Yeah, so this takes discipline, because it's also the easiest way. The easiest way is to just write a short message, and of course, I don't like people who are just sending really empty messages, like, like, hi, message, how are you, message, I have a thing, message. And I'm like, okay, like, what is it? So I think the idea is this, that, what we do is, we really distinguish that Slack is for chatter, but then really for getting things done it's NSBE Teams. So we have tasks and comments. And the idea is this, that when we chat and then somebody says, hey, let's think about this and whatever, I'm like, okay, create a task for it first and mention me there, and then we'll talk. So this way we police each other to not talk about tasks, about things to do in Slack, but move them right away to NSBE Teams. And it's just the easiest. And then because of that, when you will have a tool like ours, or similar, that you have a task and a comment to it, then the comment is a thoughtful comment, is now not hi. It's a real comment. And this is funny, because now when I chat with other people, with like even privately, using WhatsApp or using other platforms, I'm just also spoiled this way. I when I write a comment, I want it to be a thoughtful comment that encapsulates everything I want to say, right? It's just, I'm just used like this, you know, I'm just used to this. When I comment on a task, I also want to have like a one coherent, you know, piece of thought. But people are not like this. And then they send me these, you know, small short messages, and I'm like, hey, just, you know, stop. Tell me what you want to say, what you want to tell me, and that's it. So it's the question of, you know, creating this culture that we are an organized company. We put our stuff where the stuff belongs. Yes, we are humans, so we fall back to chatting because it's convenient and nice and fun. Well, but creating tasks and having them also organized and having comments in the one place, it's also fun, because later you don't have to search for things. So it's like, is the question of just, you know, policing each other, helping each other, and just making sure that you do reply to the whole thing, that you do, you know, give a coherent explanation to things. And also this helps us not have such long meetings, because sometimes when we have an agenda point before the meeting and we just comment on it, sometimes we are just like, okay, there is nothing more to say. Like we've done it. Like in comments, there is no need to discuss this. Like, yeah. But I want to give you this thing that like very rarely, but I get to be on a meeting where I have somebody who is not like us, like doesn't work like this, like is not already brainwashed to be so, you know, to have the agenda, to have everything prepared and whatever. So sometimes we invite somebody, you know, on one of the meetings, and they have made a proposal, right? And they come to the meeting and they start explaining their proposal, and we're like, no, we already read it. Like, we know, we have questions, but we've already read it. Like, no need to do a presentation. Like, people are just still, you know, in this old mode that I'm here for this. I have this proposal. I submitted it earlier, but now it's time for me to present it. And I'm like, no, you've already made the presentation. It's all in the proposal. We have a few questions, but, you know, we know what you did. We know what you want to say. So don't waste our time now saying what you wrote, because we read it. You know. So yes. But it's funny, because I think it's the old school, you know, way of pitching ideas.
Yeah. Do you think we undervalue the power of the written word?
Totally. Like I think Jason Fried from Basecamp, he said that whenever he has a doubt about hiring a person, he hires a better writer. And I think it's a good piece of advice that writing is really good. Writing is really important. And writing is really powerful, as you said, you know, like that's why to me, these thoughtful comments are important. And especially we don't see each other. So when you write a comment, you have to watch out not to be rude, not to be, you know, pushy. There's more nuance in the written word, you know, and you know, and you don't know the feelings of the other person. Maybe they had a crummy day, you don't know. So I find whenever I just write too much, or in too much of I don't know, anger, or I don't know, any kind of other feeling, I just don't send it first. I just first go, okay, let me read it again, and then I'll send it. So that's why I think writing is really, really important. That's why we both have, you know, personal blogs, because for us, personal blogs are just a way to just practice writing, just to be in a habit of writing. And you know, I write about many things, like my home office, like, you know, how I feel about the vaccination, or I don't know, anything. And the thing is, I write about these things on my personal blog basically for myself, and, you know, for some people who want to read it, but it's basically for me a way to practice writing, which is just not directly related to my work, but it does influence later the way I write, you know, pitches, proposals, and comments.
I remember when I finished my doctoral dissertation early, and you know, some people were like, wow, how'd you do that? And I said, I've been blogging for like 10 years, you know, so writing is, it's never easy, but it's something that's very comfortable, you know. And I think you're right. Yeah. You look for the better writer, because that probably means they're more clear thinker. They can be more decisive. A lot of this summit, Michael, is about becoming more productive. And, you know, we have you, and we have David and Mike Vardy, and all these great experts who are kind of like already there. And a lot of people on this summit might be intimidated. They might say, my law firm is disorganized. My church staff is underperforming. My nonprofit is, I don't know, unmotivated. Who knows, right? And we come to this summit and we say, you need to have one project management tool that you're all using. And I think people would say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's cool, right? But then they think, I'm going to get my whole organization to use Nosby Teams or ClickUp or Basecamp or Monday.com, like whatever, right? And they can be intimidated. So I wonder if you could speak to the value of having one place to do project management, to share tasks, to delegate things, to make those thoughtful comments. So what's the value of that one place? And then second, what's just one step that somebody who maybe isn't using one of those tools, what's one step they can take to move their organization towards that?
Yeah, so first of all, the thing was that we used to be very selfish about our tasks. Like everybody had their own task list, like, somebody had their, yellow papers, somebody had the Moleskine notebook, somebody had the, the Lotus Notes or some, things or some other to-do app and, or Nosby, whatever. But they had, everybody had their own, and like, I remember like David Allen, explaining one of his seminars that that he just goes and meets with the other guy and they compare their task lists, and then they check off their things on their end and whatever. And okay, I get it, but I think we should stop being selfish about our tasks and vulnerable about how we do tasks. We should share them in common space, because only then you can see what people are working on, and then you can really, like as you said, like communicate through tasks, communicate in the comments through these tasks. That's why it is really important to sign up for not for Nosby Teams if you want to support me, or Asana, or Monday, or ClickUp, whatever you want to choose, but sign up for one of these services and start and get. So my advice is basically get two people you work closest with and create one project there. That's it. Don't think about like basic step. Don't think about, oh, I have the 20, 30 person organization I have to move. No, don't think about that. Think about, two people you work with, put them there, create one project together, just one. Everything else, you keep working the old way, whatever way you were doing, email, keep using that. But for this one project, use that, but make sure it's the mobile version as well. So get version so that they really think for this project. And it has to be an important project, like very, very important, but like one of but an important project, and just do this one project there. And then you get when you do, you start inviting more people and you start creating more projects. Like you just get the hang of it. But I would start just very small with just one project, one thing that you have to do together with somebody. You will learn how to add a task, where to add a task, where to add a comment, what is a project task, where to put a checklist, where not to put a checklist, or how to structure the project with maybe some sections, or like you will learn this thing with just this one project. And once you get the hang of it and see how well it works, you see that how cool it is to have that, all the knowledge of 3 people in one space, you will get the benefit. And then you will not need me or anyone else to convince you. Like you will get, you'll get it.
One thing I would add is if you're already using some any of those resources that we mentioned, and maybe you're dissatisfied, or it's not working for you anymore, or it's too expensive or whatever, take one of your team members and just say, hey, you want to try this for like 2 weeks? I mean, I know that's what we did. We were using one service. And then I just went to one of my team members and I said, do you want to try using Nosby Teams, like just for this one particular project? And we kind of did it in secret, for like 2 weeks. And at the end, we just said, what do we think? Did that work? What did that feel like? Was it smooth, et cetera? So there's different ways to do it. I just don't want people to leave the summit feeling like I'll never get there. We're just going to stay disorganized. It's hopeless. It's not hopeless, but you got to take it maybe in slow chunks. So let's land the plane, Michael. You've been so generous with your time, and I just want to make sure you have a chance to promote perhaps a feature of Nosby Teams or another resource or service that you feel like you want people to know about?
So yeah, so like hashtag Nosby history. When I started Nosby, it was just a personal. So what I said, a selfish to-do app. It was a personal, selfish to-do app. But then we introduced sharing and all that stuff. But then we realized that we need to approach it differently, and that's why we created Nosby Teams, which is for teams to share their tasks and communicate through comments. And one of the things that we didn't do in the first version of Nosby, Nosby Personal, and we do have now in Nosby Teams, which I think is really awesome, is the fact that you can have multiple teams, basically. So basically, when you have, let's say I'm a part of your team, we work together in one team, but then I can create a free team, just for example, for my family. So here, and you still use the same tool for everything, but on the other hand, you can have just separate workspaces, separate teams, and just have like a clear distinction that this is work, this is home, this is the other job, or whatever. So this is one of the things that we recently launched, and I'm really proud of it, because for us, just making this tool, improving this tool is everything that we do.
So that's exciting. So Nosby Personal is for personal. Nosby Teams now has the ability for multiple teams. You could have a free team. It's five people, unlimited tasks on the free version.
Yes, not only task, but 5 projects and 5 people. So that's it.
5 projects, 5 people. Okay, but you can get a lot done with 5 projects and 5 people.
Yes. Okay. Yes, and especially in Nosby Teams, you can create project sections, so you can really you can really manage a household with that. It's not a big deal.
And where should we point people online towards Nosby?
So just to nozbe.com, the simple as that. So nosby.com, and that's one thing. Yeah, and if people want to learn more about how we work, like on nosby.com, we have pages where we share not only how Nosby works, but also why we don't use emails, how the pyramid of communication works. It's all there on nosby.com.
Michael, thanks for being our guest. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike, for having me, as always.